Hi, and welcome to Career Mobility with James Mcilvena in August 2025. James, how are you? Looking very smart this afternoon.
Well, thank you, TJ. I thought I'd dress up for this one.
Whereas I am donning the brand.
Yes, no, but I've actually got a dinner on this evening where in-house lawyer is nominated for Lawyer of the Year. So very exciting.
Fantastic. Good luck. Good luck. All right. So we are going to talk about what you've been up to in these last few weeks. I know you've been recently away in the Hunter at the HR Symposium. So I'd love to hear a little bit about what was discussed there. It's always good to know what's current. What were the key topics that you came away with, James?
Yeah, well, you could say key topics or key topic, like singular. And the key singular topic was AI. I think a useful data point on exactly how pervasive that was in almost every session and every discussion was the second speaker of the event got up and said, I've counted the word used 91 times or something in the first presentation.
Wow.
And, made a guesstimate how many times we'd hear the word AI by the time the 2 days of content had finished. But that theme off the back of that, because AI is such a broad term,
It really
and
is.
so really the key themes off the back of that was how's that then going to impact, how's that going to shape the world of work, in particular the world of HR, what benefits and how do you get real value from it. So not just turn on, because anyone can go out and buy an AI tool and turn it on, and even if they know how to use it, not get a real benefit from it. But there was a lot of discussion around how you create systems. If you're looking to use agents and agentic AI as part of productivity measures in a process, what are the considerations there? How to use people data in a smart but privacy constrained way through use of AI. So there was a lot of education on what you need to do, what you need to consider to get maximum benefit, but then also what impacts. How would you then structure what the people do to actually free up time to do higher order work, which has been a discussion for quite a while now, but it's often that stumbling block for a lot of people, which is they can be very good at switching something on and getting the productivity gain, but then the reallocation of how the time gained is going to be spent needs really careful consideration, needs really close alignment with the broader business objectives. So that was the topic for pretty much every session. We presented a session which was, I like to think, slightly different in we talked about the requirement for having leaders that have an adaptive mindset in order to be able to cope with all of the change, rather than talking about AI as the key topic.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I even posted something today into our LinkedIn group, which was about that whole fact that, careers are changing. We actually, most of us are going to have multiple careers in our lifetimes now. Whether we're coming new into the workplace or whether we've been in there for a long time, we're all going to have to look to change, and that adaptability is almost a non-negotiable now.
Yeah, and it will be one of those things that, learning agility, adaptability will be something that almost anyone listening to this can expect to get questioned on in any process, in any industry, for any role.
Yeah, which is definitely massive, massive change. So we wanted to just kind of talk about this as well, about how can you use the tools that are available to you. Certainly, we're going to call this, and I quite like this term, a sort of an AI job search audit. What's available at your fingertips. So we know obviously different people have access to various different Gen AIs, but through LHH Career Studio, you'll have access to specific tools. So I'd like to talk just a little bit about those and really how you can be leveraging those. So the first one I want to talk about was Career Canvas.
So Career Canvas is an LHH specific tool where it uses AI based on an individual's preferences. So what are their values, what are their preferences, what are their skill sets, to give people some career inspirations. And so what it is fundamentally doing is looking at tangential roles. That's not I would like to do exactly the same role just for more money, and starting to look at what are some of the sideways, what are some of the diagonal moves that people can look at making and get inspired to at least open up a discussion about whether that's the right thing for them. And even if it's not one of these new career inspiration pathways that people decide to take, it is critical, and I know I've said this in these sessions before, it is critical that the time used when going through outplacement, when having the support of a career coach on your side, the ability to at least be able to say, well, I did an assessment. I didn't think in such a linear fashion that I shut myself off to other opportunities.
Yeah.
You know, rule in, rule out. Either way, it depends on the individual, but it's the broader consideration, particularly at this time with workforce changing so dramatically, that even just uncovering those preferences and the things you might want to consider, if not now, then in future, is an incredibly useful exercise. So that's why globally we invest in Career Canvas, and the use rate and the take-up has been phenomenal, because people are really interested, and we're starting to see through the data, a significant increase. We're now up to 58% of people who don't do that. I'm moving from the job I was into a very similar, if not same job somewhere else, when they're coming out through career transition. So it's very, very important to investigate it. And it was important for us to invest in a tool to help people do that.
Yeah, brilliant. And it's a very simple tool to use. And I really love the fact that it's almost, I love the idea of the canvas as well, because a blank canvas, what are you going to create on there? You can do anything. And I think what it does is it brings to life a new conversation that then they can have with their coach about, I hadn't even thought about that industry, or I hadn't thought about that type of role, or how I could apply my skills that they might be transferable to that type of sort of opportunity. But now that's kind of given me that sort of spark of idea. I can start investigating that and perhaps looking at other conversations that I wasn't even considering, and then obviously get some coaching on that. So really, from the conversations I've had, they're the sorts of, exciting sort of moments that people have. It's like those light bulb moments where they're like, oh, actually, I hadn't even thought about that might be an option for me, but given how the landscape and location of work has changed as well, new things are available. And I think, again, if people have been in roles for 10, 15 years, they maybe haven't been thinking about what else life could look like. And it really can be quite different now.
Absolutely. And it would have been remiss of me not to have given it a decent tryout myself. And so, going through it, your point is absolutely. There was probably, of the career inspirations that threw up, many of them I was like, oh, yeah, I get that one. It's almost like there was the one or two, and I'm not sure whether the algorithm's been designed in this way, but there's almost one or two that are like wild cards, that stretch your thinking a little bit more. And it's not a one-shot deal either. You can go back through and change some preferencing. So, like you said, it's pretty simple. It's, answer a series of questions. It takes max 5 minutes, right, to get the output. Like that's maximum. That's if you don't use the tools to sort of pass the information off CV or LinkedIn profile. But you can do it a few different times, change some of your preferences and get different career inspirations and play around with it. And that was the bit I found really cool, because you get those couple of wild cards every time and it just gets you thinking, which is the whole point.
Yeah, totally. You've got me thinking wild cards, and like, when you get like sort of like a pack of cards when you're a kid, and it'd be like, oh, I got this one. Yeah, definitely a sort of, it gives different thoughts. Now, the other one that I wanted to talk about is one that's relatively new. So we've been doing some more investment in the LHH Interview Centre. So I'd love to have a chat about this today, because I think it's, of course, really for nearly 6 years now, a lot of people have been used to online interviews, but getting that immediate feedback and understanding how you're coming across, are you asking great questions, are you being succinct, are your examples powerful, to get that information back very, very quickly and be able to navigate and also create scenarios and test and try. And mate, it's just such an amazing tool. I had a bit of a play with it recently this week, so I'd love to see what your thoughts are on it, because I think it's really powerful.
It is. It's having an interview centre as part of what's available to people in our programs is not new. We've had an interview centre, well, it's been there ever since I joined, and that was almost 7 years ago. So
Yeah.
it's not a new thing, but the old, and this is the evolution. The old thing was it was static. So it was
Yeah.
fantastic. People underutilized it. Then after COVID, when a lot of the interviews moved to virtual rather than in person, a lot of people took it up because it was a great opportunity just to practice their skills and see how they came across in a video interview. And so that ramped it up a bit. And then once people were using it, they started doing the debrief with their coaches. But the new iteration, because of that AI integration, is at a next level where
It really is.
rather than you just record against some pre-prepared questions that you could select, you can now select the persona of the interviewer. You can ask it to focus on where am I using weak words in my responses. It gives a level of analysis, as you'd expect from anything that's properly using AI. It gives you a level of analysis that was not even close to being available.
Yeah.
And the concept is then not to not have a discussion with your coach. It's you've just got much richer data
Yeah.
to inform that discussion. Rather than a coach having to watch back and get the insights, come prepared with the insights from the interview and get straight into the heart of it with the coach and say, I really need your help to remove some of the weaker words where I'm not positioning myself. I'm positioning myself and it's wishy-washy and I don't have a very clear and succinct narrative about why me and where my value lies. And so it really allows the discussion to hone in very quickly and allow people to be prepared and confident faster. And that's the whole point. Interviews are about what you say and the confidence you carry in, and this
Yeah.
enables both of those things in a much shorter time frame because the analysis is so much better.
Yeah, absolutely. It's yeah, I love that it is so immediate. And as you quite rightly say, it's not about then not speaking to your coach or just kind of you've got that, therefore you don't need one. I actually think, as you say, it just gives a much more interesting conversation to be had because it is much more specific and literally, as you say, tailored to very specific personas. So if you know who the next person is that you're going to be speaking to, it's really starting to get a sense of, well, how might I chat with someone who maybe is different to other interviewers that I've had, or a different type of interview. Might be a technical interview. So based on your skill set, what does that sound like? And what type of questions might you be asked in that environment? So extremely powerful. So those are two main things. Then, of course, Gen AI. There's so many of those. You can use any of those out there, but really beneficial, and I've talked about this and written articles about it, about how to use that to really start to get a sense of your brand and how other people might see you. So again, I'll put the article details in this in the notes afterwards. But yeah, there's many different ways you can use Gen AI now to just really, obviously resumes, all these different things that we can tweak. It's incredible.
Look, absolutely. And I think you touched on it at the start. I would encourage everyone who's watching this to just do a quick, if you're in an LHH program, you have access to those tools, have you used them? And if you haven't, then why not? I'd encourage you to do it. If you don't have access to one of our programs, at least do an analysis of, am I using AI at all in my job search? And there are two significant and compelling reasons why you should. Number one is it's going to increase your productivity. General rules of AI use, particularly if it's ChatGPT, Claude, anything else, when you're using bots put over large language models, be careful about privacy and what you share. Secondly, always personalize. So whatever you get back, if it's a productivity gain to get something 60, 70% there, always make sure you're not passing something on, that's purely created by AI and it hasn't got that personal overlay of the finished product. And not only does it give you the productivity, employers now expect that it's being used. So in a way, you get the productivity of being able to maximize the quality of your applications, but also being able to say, and I taught myself something in the use of AI in preparing what I've done to get in front of you for the interview. So you're educating yourself in AI and achieving a productivity gain. And there's no, provided you personalize, there's no loss in that. So if not, why not, would be my question. If it's not involved in your process in any way whatsoever, why not?
Yeah, I think that's a great fact. And the reality is, as we're seeing in pretty much every job now moving forward, there's going to be some touch on AI for everybody. So it's one of those things that we just need to be aware of and to really start learning and integrating with, really a bit like the internet.
And it's becoming a very, very common interview question.
Yeah. There you go. So yeah, you heard it here first. One of the other things we wanted to talk about is really, a lot of things that I get asked when I'm speaking to people who are in that sort of space of transition. How can I show up, and how can I show how unique I am in the process? So we thought we might give a few key giveaways as part of this session today. So James, when it comes to injecting your uniqueness into the job search process, how do you think people can do that? What would be your number one tip?
Yeah. I mean, it's a great question, and B, it's incredibly important to be able to do it. So first and foremost, one is ensure that there is a degree of research that you have done on the opportunity that no one else has done. How that happens is unimportant. So it could be you've got fantastic research skills through your networks, you found out something, but going beyond the understanding of what was in the job ad, what was in the role profile if you've been given it, or what was on the website is almost minimum viable product, right? I understand more than most people you're going to speak to is number one, right? That is often unique to stand out in a process. Yeah. Number two is how can you demonstrate a genuine interest in both the company and the role?
Yeah.
So every employer wants to know that you're excited by their company and by the opportunity. The whole I'm going to play hard to get does not work. So think about uniquely what it means to you, why it aligns to you personally, why it aligns to your values, why you're excited, what challenge you're going to get from the role. That's a great way to demonstrate your uniqueness. 3 is what have you done, and match it very specifically. So if you've covered the first bit, which is you really understand the role of the company and the opportunity, then why you're excited by it, and then it's what have you done? What actions, what experiences, what work can you reference? And those 3 things together, understanding a role, genuine excitement by it, and a unique differentiator with your past experiences, your recently acquired skills, whatever it might be, bringing that all together starts to form that unique value proposition. They go, right, well, TJ's clearly better aligned to this role on those 3 elements than the other people I'm seeing. That's what gets offers and contracts.
Beautiful. I love that, James. I think what I take away from that is, again, it's that idea of, if you can see that someone's passionate. When I speak to employers, I'm organizing a few career fairs at the moment, and they want to know that people really that they're interested in their business, like you say, that they understand that there's, what they do and kind of how they add value in the market. If you can demonstrate that, but also show potentially things that you've done that add to that, and sort of, let me show you how I've done that. People just absolutely want to hear about that. That's how those connections are made, and that's how great conversations are had as well. It just creates value in the communication.
Yeah, and I've always been a massive fan of reversing the scenario. So think from the employer's standpoint. In any hiring process, what might be their 2 greatest fears? Fear number 1 is they hire you and you can't do the job and you're a low performer. fear number 2 is they hire you and you're great, and you leave within a year. So if you can demonstrate that you're genuinely excited and connected, and then you can demonstrate that you have unique skills that you're going to be credible, capable, and do the job, and those things that you don't already know, you're happy to learn and you're invested in learning, then you've covered off their 2 major fears as to why they wouldn't offer you a job.
That's brilliant. And again, I think if people haven't unpacked potentially when they're going for interview or even when they're putting their marketing plan together, those sorts of conversations with their coach, this is a great reminder to do that. Have those conversations. You know, what are those things that add value in that area and that you could demonstrate? Brilliant. I love that. We will make sure all of these things go into the notes following this session. I hope you have a fantastic evening tonight. And thanks again also for, those great takeaways. I think some brilliant stuff from this session.
Not a problem. Great pleasure to talk to you as always. Thanks, DJ.
Awesome. See you soon. Cheers.
Bye.